They put this helmet on him, and they had him think a particular message. And they turned all the big antenna down to the northern peninsula of Michigan, that little section that's in there, and had him be telepathically projecting, when it comes time for you to file your national, your U.S. income tax forms next year, file them in this little post office box down this little town down in West Virginia. And 85% of the people did it next year.
Do you have any takes on the UFO thing that very few people agree with you on, or that are really out of left field sounding to the average person or something?
All of them are out loud left field.
Yeah, I mean, but in a world where like it's actually seen as somewhat conventional to believe in at least the phenomena itself, do you have any sort of really contrarian takes on how this stuff works? Or
no, what I do believe is that it has an awful lot to do with consciousness.
Yeah,
that they're monitoring us, trying to gauge our state of evolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
Because that's a very big deal to them.
Yeah. I agree with that.
They use it to drive their craft, to navigate. They telepathically communicate. That this whole thing of the level of consciousness that we're at is really important to them.
Do you think legacy programs have made any sort of progress on this stuff?
It's kind of a branch office of it, which is the remote viewing stuff that Hal Puthoff and the Targ and those guys have been involved in.
Do you think that's still in effect? And
oh yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really sophisticated stuff. I mean, really sophisticated stuff.
What gives you conviction there? I mean, obviously, it pops up in skinwalkers at the Pentagon that they're studying it, as part of ATIP and OSAP or whatever. But like that, to me, is small fish. It's not a lot of money.
It's a big deal. In that, when you know what they accomplished in that program, which they're lying about to everybody, say, oh well, it didn't get very far. They couldn't. They kind of shut it down.
So what do you think they actually accomplish?
Well, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Because I've read the whole file on it.
Or you're just talking about like Joseph McMoneagle?
No, I'm talking about Pat Price.
Okay. What happened with Pat Price again? Pat
Price was such an accomplished remote viewer.
Yeah.
That they actually he got to a point where this one particular thing, and the reason I saw this parenthetically is that I was asked to be the attorney for L. Ron Hubbard.
You were?
In the Church of Scientology.
No way.
Yeah.
So how would you connect Scientology and remote viewing? I mean, I know Hal Puthoff was a Scientologist for some time, but
Hal Puthoff was, and so was Pat Price, and so was Ingo Swann, were high-level clears of the Church of Scientology. The FBI and the Justice Department in New York subpoenaed the top 10 people in the Church of Scientology in New York and ordered them to come in front of a grand jury. And they were going to be interrogating them in front of the grand jury. They called me again, and I went up to New York because I'm admitted in the Southern District, and I got an injunction shutting them down. So they couldn't do that because it was totally unconstitutional again. And so they were so sort of enamored of me that they talked with Ron Hubbard, and Ron Hubbard wanted to have me be the lawyer for them, with him and his wife Susan, against the IRS, that whole thing they were doing. So I said that, look, I wouldn't even meet with Ron Hubbard unless there was a condition precedent that I could be given access to every single document anywhere in the world in the internal files of the Church of Scientology. I figured that was a real non-starter, right?
Yeah, of course.
And within a week, they came back and said, it's a deal.
No way.
What do you want to see? And so
you could query anybody's e-meter results?
Yeah, anything. I could get anything I wanted. And so they flew me down to Florida, and the big blue cube they've got down there, this big, huge blue building. So I go in, and there's the head of the Guardian's office, U.S. Guardian's office, and the international head of the Guardians, out of the UK. And they say, so what do you want to see? And I said, well, first, what I want to see is the file you've got on me. And the American guy said, no, I don't, no. And I said, excuse me. I said, what do you think, I fell off some melon wagon somewhere? I said, you're going to have me be L. Ron Hubbard's attorney and you don't have any file on me at all? And the international guy says, go get him the file.
Yeah.
You know, so they bring me the file. I'm going through.
How deep was it? How much stuff did they have?
Well, they had you know, I mean, pictures of me. You know, I was a Jesuit candidate. I was at the headquarters. You know, they would follow me around. They showed me in different restaurants, you know, and meeting with people. You know, Mark Lane and some of the other guys. You know,
Mark Lane. He was like Kennedy assassination investigator.
Yeah, Rush to Judgment. He was the author of that. Yeah. You know, so you know they had all these kind of things, and so I said, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that it was accurate. You know, and then so the international guy says to me, okay, so what else do you want to see? I said, I want to see the 3 most sensitive files in the entire world, according to you, as the head of the Guardian's office. You know, and he just went, oh, fuck, he said. I said, so either you get them or not. You know, so he gets up and is gone and rummages around, comes back, and he ends up laying one of the files in front of me. And I started looking at it, and it was all reports by Ingo Swann. Ingo Swann was filing reports with the head Guardian office in the UK about the entire internal operations of the Office of Naval Intelligence remote viewing program that they were doing. He was just giving them all the information.
So he was a spy or something?
Yeah. No, he was a spy for the Church of Scientology.
For the Church of Scientology?
Over and against the Office of Naval Intelligence.
Why would he do that?
Because he was a high-level clearer. That was his loyalty group.
His fundamental loyalty. He was loyal to them prior to.
That's right. Over and above. Because
I always thought Puthoff was like looking into that stuff because he was like an NSA guy before he was a Scientology guy. So I thought Puthoff was just like tasked to like looking into this, you know, very para-governmental intelligence organization that is Scientology that's seen as a threat, and so get Puthoff in there.
No, this was the stuff. I mean, the Church of Scientology. You're not aware of it. That their highest principle in the Church of Scientology is all to do with UFOs.
Really?
So they believe that there is a major confrontation going on between the human-like people from the Pleiades over and against the reptilians from Zeta Reticuli, and that there's a major confrontation going on over which of them is going to actually assert major relations with our planet.
Do you agree with that worldview?
No, I don't.
But Swann was like fully in with the Scientologists and was giving them information on the Office of Naval Intelligence.
All of it.
And so you're also saying that there's a remote viewing program that was deeper than Stargate? Because that was an Office of Naval Intelligence. That was DIA after CIA.
Yep. No, this was a program. And Pat Price, I'll give you some idea how deep this goes. Pat Price, you know, they had the file, Ingo Swann had the file that Pat Price had gotten so good at remote viewing that they assigned him a task of, they gave him the exact longitude and latitude down to the minute and second of a location, and he was assigned an artist so that he didn't have to do these hen scratches trying to show it. But he was saying, you know, so what's there? So there's this major building here, and there's big fence up with razor wire on the top of it and everything. And his facilitator was Russell Targ. And so Russell was saying, okay, now can you get inside the fence? Can you see anything inside the fence? And he goes, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, I can see inside the fence. And there's just this no man's land there. Can you get to the front door of this place? And he said, all right. He said, okay, all right, I got it. Yeah, okay, I'm in front of the front door. He said, can you go inside the building? And he said, let me see here. Okay, yeah, I can see inside the building here. He said, so what do you see? He says, this big long hallway. There's some doors on both sides, and Russell said, "Now go down to the third door on the left." He said, "Okay." He said, "Can you go into the room?" "Yeah, I can go into the room." "So what do you see?" "Well, there's a big desk there and chairs and stuff. There's a big file cabinet over in the right corner over here. Go over to the file cabinet." So he goes over to the file cabinet. There's a second drawer, first file. "Read it to me." And he did.
What was it?
Well, that's not the point. The point is that he did it.
Yeah.
And he can do it, you know. And it turns out it's an American facility. It's a top CIA security facility.
Yeah, but that's insane then. So anybody with remote viewing skills can get the nuclear codes?
Not anybody, but Pat Price could.
The best.
So that's Pat Price, right? And in the same file, it points out that Pat Price had actually evolved to the point where they could take a full photograph of a boomer-class Russian submarine, nuclear submarine, and show it to him and say, where is it? Right now. And he would give him right down to the exact longitude and latitude, down to the minute and second of exactly where that is. And he visualized the whole thing and told him exactly where it was. But there was a huge UFO right over the top of the water where that thing was. And it was tracking it and monitoring it. And he had it in the file. I'm going, whoa! I said, this is pretty wild. And then I said, okay. So what else have you got? He says, well, here. And I said, show me the second file. And he showed me the second file, and it was again from Ingo Swann. It was a deep inside report from Ingo Swann that they had taken Pat Price in the program up to southern Canada, south central Canada, just north of the state of Michigan, and they brought him to this little facility. It was like this little domed little building, and it had these big, huge dishes on top, these communication dishes on top. And they brought him in, and they set him down, and they put this helmet on him, and they had him think a particular message. And they turned all the big antenna down to the northern peninsula of Michigan, that little section that's in there, and had him be telepathically projecting, when it comes time for you to file your national, your U.S. income tax forms next year, file them in this little post office box down in this little town down in West Virginia. And 85% of the people did it next year.
No way.
Absolutely way.
That's insane.
You keep saying that.
So you're saying Scientology had some sort of mass mind control technique.
No, it wasn't the Church of Scientology.
What was it?
This was the program.
That was the program, the Office of Naval Intelligence.
This was the program.
But that's like, the implications of that are crazy.
No, they're profound.
Yeah.
Not quite crazy.
Well, it's crazy for the average person.